Hey everyone, welcome to another deep dive with us. We're tackling a fascinating book today called Accidental Genius by Mark Levy. Have you heard of him?
Oh, absolutely. It's a classic.
Well, we're diving deep into it today to see what kind of golden nuggets we can unearth, especially for our listeners who are new entrepreneurs,
Hmm.
just starting to build their dreams.
That's a great angle. There's so much in there that can be applied to, well, really any creative endeavor, but especially starting a business.
Right, because when you think about it, so much of entrepreneurship is about creativity,
Yeah.
about coming up with those fresh ideas that set you apart.
Absolutely. And one of the things I love about Levy's approach is that he demystifies creativity. It's not some magical talent that you're either born with or not.
Yeah, so many people
Absolutely.
think that way, right? Like, oh, I'm just not a creative person.
Yeah.
But Levy argues that everyone has this untapped potential, this wellspring of creativity, just waiting to be unlocked. And the key, he says, is writing.
He makes a really compelling case. And it's not about writing the next great American novel. It's about using writing as a tool, almost like a thinking tool, to access those hidden ideas, those innovative solutions that are already there in your mind.
And for new entrepreneurs who are often juggling so many things, feeling overwhelmed, maybe even a little bit stuck, this idea of using writing as a tool to unlock those ideas, to problem solve more effectively, I mean, that could be a game changer.
It absolutely can be. And it all starts with understanding how our minds work, how we often have all this incredible expertise and knowledge, but it's buried beneath the surface.
He uses this analogy of the mind being like a vast invisible inventory. I love that.
It's such a powerful image. Imagine a warehouse packed with all these incredible products, but the doors are locked, and you don't even know what's in there. Free writing is the key that flings those doors wide open.
Okay, so free writing is the key. But for our listener who's maybe hearing this term for the first time, how would you explain it in simple terms?
Simply put, free writing is about giving yourself permission to just write without judgment. You set a timer, maybe 10 or 15 minutes, and you just let those thoughts flow onto the page, whatever comes to mind. No editing, no censoring, no worrying about grammar or punctuation.
So it's like a brain dump, but on paper.
Exactly. It's about bypassing those inner critics, those voices that say, oh, that's a stupid idea, or I'm not a good writer. We all have those voices.
Oh yeah, they're loud in my head. So we silence those critics by just writing freely whatever comes to mind.
You got it. And you might be surprised by what emerges. Levy says that those inappropriate thoughts, the ones we often try to suppress, are often where the seeds of originality and distinction lie.
So like those crazy ideas that we might be afraid to say out loud.
Exactly. Those ideas might be unconventional, even a little bit out there, but they often hold the key to those unique business propositions, those fresh perspectives that can set you apart in a crowded market.
That makes sense, especially for a new entrepreneur trying to make their mark. It's about being different, about finding that thing that makes you stand out. Now, Levy doesn't just tell us to free write. He provides all these practical secrets to make it even more effective. This try easy concept, it seems a little counterintuitive. Isn't creativity about pushing yourself, about striving for brilliance?
That's what we're often told, right? But Levy makes this really interesting point. When we put too much pressure on ourselves to be brilliant or creative, we actually block the natural flow of ideas. It's like, think about those athletes who perform at their best when they're in the zone, they're not overthinking it, they're just flowing with the energy of the game. Try Easy is about approaching free writing with that same sense of ease, allowing those ideas to emerge naturally without forcing them.
So it's almost like giving yourself permission to be playful with your writing.
Exactly. It's about letting go of that need to control the outcome, to be perfect, and just trusting the process. And one of the best ways to do that is to write fast.
Write fast.
Yeah.
Really? Like how fast?
Levy says to write at the speed of thought, to capture those ideas before your inner critic has a chance to chime in. It's like a race against those negative voices in your head.
I love that image. It's almost like we're training our brains to think faster, to be more agile and creative.
Precisely. And when you write fast, you're less likely to get bogged down in those details, those self-edits that can stifle creativity. And here's another key point. Embrace those inappropriate thoughts. The ones we talked about earlier.
Okay, so how does someone actually embrace those inappropriate thoughts? It sounds a little risky.
It can feel that way, right?
Right.
But remember, this is for your eyes only at this stage. It's about capturing those raw, unfiltered thoughts as they come, those flashes of insight that might seem a little too edgy or unconventional at first. But those are often the seeds of true originality.
That's interesting. So it's about giving ourselves permission to be a little bit rebellious in our thinking, which I guess is essential when you're trying to do something new and different in the business world, right?
Exactly. And don't be afraid to let those seemingly crazy ideas out of the box. You never know where they might lead you.
It's almost like free writing gives you permission to be your true, unfiltered self, which is incredibly liberating. And Livy seems to be a big fan of using a timer. Why is that so important, especially for busy entrepreneurs who are probably already feeling overwhelmed?
Setting a timer creates this sense of urgency and focus. You know you only have a limited amount of time to write, so you're less likely to get distracted or bogged down in perfectionism. It's like a sprint for your brain.
So it's like those high-intensity workouts, short, focused, and surprisingly effective. So for our listener who's probably juggling a million things, setting that timer could be the key to actually fitting free writing into their already jam-packed schedule.
Exactly. Even just 10 minutes a day can make a huge difference. Now, what about this idea of writing the way you think? It sounds intriguing, but also a bit intimidating. What if my thoughts are all over the place?
Yeah, I was wondering about that too. Like, what if my thinking is kind of messy and disorganized?
That's exactly what Levy encourages. He calls it kitchen language. It's that raw, unfiltered language we use when we're talking to ourselves or our closest friends. Full of slang, abbreviations, inside jokes, those little quirks that make our thinking unique. It's not about trying to sound professional or polished. It's about capturing those authentic thoughts as they come to you.
So it's like eavesdropping on your own mind, right? And I guess that's where the real insights lie, those uncensored thoughts that we might not even be aware of.
Exactly. It's not about trying to fit into some preconceived notion of what good writing should be. It's about letting your unique voice and personality shine through. That's what will ultimately make your business idea stand out.
It's like giving yourself permission to break all the rules of proper writing, which can be incredibly freeing. But once those thoughts are flowing, how do we ensure we're not just going off on random tangents?
That's where the next secret comes in going with the thought. And this is where Levy brings in his experience with improvisational theater.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know he had an improv background.
He does. And in improv, you learn to accept what's been said and build upon it, creating the spontaneous flow of ideas. And he suggests applying that same principle to free writing.
So instead of trying to control the direction of our thoughts, we just go with the flow, see where they take us.
Exactly. It's about embracing those unexpected turns, those seemingly random connections that our minds make. Like when you're brainstorming and someone throws out an idea that seems totally off the wall, but then it sparks a whole new train of thought.
I love those moments. It's like you stumble upon a hidden pathway that leads you to a whole new world of possibilities.
Exactly. He uses this great example of a company called beefsalami.com. Imagine you're the marketer for this company, and even though you've got a 90% share of online salami sales, profits just aren't where you want them to be. So you start free writing about this, and your mind wanders from competitor analysis to marketing strategies to a salami mascot.
A salami mascot. Okay, that's definitely not what I was expecting. But I can also see how this seemingly random thought could spark a really unique marketing campaign.
That's the beauty of it. You never know where those tangents will lead you. Maybe that mascot idea leads to a viral video, or maybe it sparks a whole new line of salami-themed merchandise. So don't censor yourself. Embrace those tangents and see where they take you.
That's so liberating. It's like giving yourself permission to be playful, to explore those seemingly silly or irrelevant ideas that might actually hold the key to something brilliant. But I know I'm prone to getting distracted, especially when I'm trying to focus on a problem. Does Levy have any advice for those of us who struggle with staying on track?
He does. He talks about redirecting your attention. And, our minds are naturally prone to wandering, right? But instead of fighting it, we can use writing to gently steer our focus back to the task at hand.
So it's not about forcing ourselves to stay laser focused on one thing. It's more about acknowledging those distractions and then gently guiding our minds back to the main path.
Exactly. And he suggests actually writing down those distracting thoughts, So if you find yourself drifting off topic, just jot it down quickly and then bring your attention back to the core challenge you're exploring.
So it's almost like we're acknowledging those distractions, those shiny objects that are trying to steal our attention, but then gently guiding our minds back to the main path. And I guess writing it down is key because just trying to hold on to those random thoughts would be impossible, right?
Precisely. Writing it down creates this tangible record of those thoughts so you can revisit them later if you choose. And it also frees up mental space, so you can refocus on the task at hand.
Like taking all those scattered puzzle pieces and starting to fit them together.
Yes. Exactly. And this is particularly important for entrepreneurs who are constantly bombarded with information. Free writing helps you to make sense of all that input, organize your thoughts, and even uncover those hidden opportunities that might otherwise get lost in the noise.
It's like taking all those scattered puzzle pieces and starting to fit them together. You might not see the whole picture at first, but as you write, those connections start to emerge, and you begin to see things from a new perspective.
That's a great way to put it. It's about uncovering those hidden connections, those aha moments that can lead to those breakthrough business ideas.
And for our listener who is eager to take their free writing to the next level, in the next part of our deep dive, we'll explore some of Levy's more advanced techniques, so stay tuned for that.
Welcome back, everyone. We're diving deeper into Mark Levy's accidental genius, and I'm really excited to share some of these advanced free writing techniques with you because I think they can be incredibly powerful, especially for those of you who are just starting out on your entrepreneurial journey.
I'm ready to level up my free writing game. So what kind of power tools are we talking about here? What can we use to really supercharge this process?
Well, one technique that Levy suggests is using specific prompts to jumpstart your writing and explore different angles of a problem or opportunity.
Okay, prompts, I've heard of those before, but how do they actually work, especially for someone who's trying to generate business ideas?
They work like those conversation starters at a party, they get things flowing. So instead of staring at a blank page and feeling intimidated, a prompt gives you a specific starting point, a direction to focus your thinking.
I like that analogy. It's like instead of showing up at a party and just awkwardly standing in the corner, you have something to talk about, something to break the ice. So what kind of prompts work well for brainstorming business ideas?
Oh, there are so many possibilities, but here are a few to get you started. One is, I'd like to tell you a story. This prompt can help you explore your personal journey as an entrepreneur, or maybe the story behind your product or
I
service.
kind of like that because stories are so powerful, right? They help us to connect with people on an emotional level.
Exactly. And another great prompt is, this sounds inconsequential, but... This one is awesome for uncovering those hidden assumptions or exploring those seemingly insignificant details that might actually hold the key to a breakthrough idea.
Ooh, I love that. It's like challenging yourself to look beyond the obvious, to see the potential in those things we might normally overlook. I'm definitely going to try that one. Do you have any other favorite prompts from the book?
There's one that I find particularly helpful for entrepreneurs, and it's open up words. Levy suggests taking common business terms, like customer service or value proposition, and redefining them in a way that's personally meaningful to you and your business.
So it's like taking those words that have become almost meaningless from overuse and breathing new life into them. Right. Infusing them with your own passion and perspective.
Exactly. It's about digging deeper into the meaning of those words, uncovering those specific actions and behaviors that will make your business truly exceptional. Let's say you're starting a bakery, for example. Instead of just saying, we provide excellent customer service, you could free write about what customer service truly means to you.
Right. Like maybe it's about creating a warm and welcoming atmosphere where customers feel like family. Or maybe it's about going the extra mile to accommodate special requests or dietary restrictions.
Exactly. By exploring those deeper nuances of what customer service means to you, you can start to identify those concrete actions that will set you apart from the competition.
It's about bringing those words to life, making them more than just empty slogans.
Yes. And it's a great way to inject authenticity into your brand, to really connect with your target audience on a deeper level.
Now, one of Levy's techniques that sounds a bit paradoxical to me is escaping your own intelligence. Why would we want to escape our intelligence?
It sounds counterintuitive, doesn't it? But Levy argues that we can sometimes get so caught up in our own heads in those abstract ideas and complex theories that we lose touch with the practical realities of building a business.
Well, I've definitely been there. Overthinking a problem to the point where I can't see the forest for the trees.
Exactly. It's like trying to solve a puzzle by looking at the picture on the box instead of focusing on the individual pieces. So Levy suggests grounding yourself in the facts, just list those obvious, tangible facts about the situation.
So it's like hitting the reset button on our brains, stripping away all those assumptions and preconceived notions, and getting back to those fundamental truths that can guide our decision-making.
Exactly. And he emphasizes the value in disconnecting, too. It's easy for entrepreneurs to feel the pressure to be on all the time, constantly hustling and problem solving. But sometimes stepping away from a problem is actually the best way to find a solution.
That's a really intriguing idea. I mean, it goes against everything we're often told about productivity,
Yeah.
right? But I can also see how it could be incredibly beneficial, especially when you're feeling stuck or burnt out.
Levy uses this analogy of crossing a stream on stepping stones. You can't get to the other side without first stepping on and then abandoning each stone along the way.
Oh, I like that. So those failed ideas, those moments when we hit a wall,
Mm.
are actually essential stepping stones to something better.
Precisely. It's about trusting the process, knowing that those detours, those moments when you feel lost or stuck, are actually leading you in the right direction.
It's like that saying, sometimes you need to step back to see the bigger picture. Now, another one of Levy's techniques that sounds a bit daunting is getting 100 ideas. As a new entrepreneur, I'm already feeling overwhelmed with my to-do list. How can someone actually make this technique manageable?
I hear you. It does sound overwhelming at first, but Levy makes this interesting point. He says it's actually easier to generate a large quantity of ideas than it is to come up with one perfect solution.
Hmm, that's an interesting way to think about it. So it's like when we're too focused on finding that one right answer, we actually limit ourselves, right?
Exactly. When we shift the focus to quantity, it frees our minds to explore a wider range of possibilities, to be more playful and experimental in our thinking. And you might be surprised by what gems you uncover when you remove that pressure of finding the perfect solution right away.
So it's like giving yourself permission to be messy, to brainstorm without judgment or self-censorship. It's about letting those ideas flow freely, even if they seem silly, impractical, or even outrageous at first.
Exactly. And you never know, those out there ideas might actually spark the most innovative solutions.
Now, there's another technique I want to ask you about that sounds really intriguing, but I'm not quite sure I understand how it works. It's called using assumptions to get unstuck. What does Levy mean by this?
This is one of those techniques that really pushes you to think outside the box. Levy suggests that we can challenge our own assumptions by playing with lies.
Lies. Okay, now I'm really curious. How does that work?
He argues that by deliberately introducing a falsehood into our thinking, we can kind of shake things up and see the situation from a completely different perspective.
Interesting. It's like deliberately disrupting our usual thought patterns, those ingrained beliefs that might actually be limiting our creativity.
Exactly. It's like holding up a funhouse mirror to your business. The reflection might be distorted, but it can reveal aspects that you might never have noticed otherwise.
Okay, so let's say I'm struggling to attract new clients. How could I use this lie technique to get unstuck?
Levy might suggest playing with the lie of charging an exorbitant fee, maybe 1,000 times your normal rate.
Wow. Okay, that's definitely a lie. I mean, that's not something I would ever actually do. But I can see how exploring that extreme scenario could be really thought-provoking.
Right. It's a thought experiment. Obviously, it's not a realistic solution. But by exploring it, you might uncover those hidden assumptions that are holding you back. Maybe you realize that you've been undervaluing your services, or maybe you discover a whole new niche market that's willing to pay a premium for your expertise.
It's like those what-if questions that kids ask all the time. What if we could fly? Or what if animals could talk? Those questions might seem silly, but they can lead to some really creative thinking.
Exactly. It's about giving ourselves permission to play with those what-if scenarios, to explore those possibilities that might seem outlandish at first, but that could actually lead to some amazing breakthroughs.
Now, I know a lot of new entrepreneurs really value mentorship, that opportunity to learn from people who've already achieved success. But what if you're just starting out and don't have that network yet? Does Levy have any advice for those who are feeling a bit isolated or unsure of where to turn for guidance?
He does, and this is one of my favorite techniques in the book. It's called hold paper conversations.
Paper conversations. Okay, tell me more about this.
Levy encourages us to have imaginary dialogues with our mentors, experts, or even historical figures as a way to tap into their wisdom and gain new insights. Think of it as a brainstorming session with your dream team of advisors, all from the comfort of your own notebook.
So it's like creating your own personal mastermind group, but on paper. I love that idea. It's like having those mentors on speed dial available to you whenever you need them. But practically speaking, how do you actually go about having a paper conversation?
Levy provides a really clear framework. First, choose the person you want to talk to, whether it's someone you know personally or someone you admire from afar. Then, describe them in detail in your notebook, their personality, their expertise, their unique perspective.
Okay, so I'm really painting a picture of this person in my mind, almost like I'm bringing them to life on the page.
Exactly. And then you start writing a dialogue, asking them questions, sharing your challenges, and imagining their responses. And here's the key. Really embody that person's voice and perspective. Step outside of your own head and see the situation through their eyes.
It's like channeling their wisdom, right? Drawing on their experience and expertise to guide my own thinking. I can already see how this could be so helpful for working through those tough business decisions or brainstorming creative solutions.
It's like having a personal coach right there in your notebook.
Now, one thing that a lot of entrepreneurs struggle with, myself included, is self-doubt. It can be so easy to get discouraged, especially when you're first starting out and facing all those inevitable challenges and rejections.
Self-doubt is a tough one. It can really sabotage our efforts.
Does Levy offer any advice for dealing with those negative thoughts and turning them into something more productive?
He does. And his approach is kind of surprising. He suggests that those moments when we're feeling tired or even disgusted with our work can actually be really valuable.
Wait, really? So those times when I just want to throw my laptop out the window were actually good?
It's not about wallowing in those negative emotions, but Levy argues that those feelings can be a powerful source of information.
Okay, so how do we actually use those negative feelings as information?
He encourages us to ask ourselves some tough questions, like, what am I tired of? What's not working here? And just by acknowledging those feelings of frustration, we can start to identify those areas that need to change.
It's like turning those negative thoughts into fuel for growth and innovation.
Exactly. He quotes David White, who says, "See, even if you're stuck in life, if you can describe just exactly the way you're stuck, then you will immediately recognize that you can't go on that way anymore."
Wow, that's really powerful.
Yeah.
So it's about giving ourselves permission to acknowledge those negative feelings,
Yeah.
those moments of doubt and frustration, and then using them as a springboard for change.
Exactly. And that might mean pivoting your business strategy, delegating tasks, or just taking a break to recharge and come back to the problem with fresh eyes.
Now, one of the things that I've noticed in Levy's work is that he places a lot of emphasis on details, this idea of exact writing. Why is that so important in a business context?
It's all about paying attention, really observing those details that might seem insignificant at first, but that can actually reveal some really profound insights. Levy tells this great story about Tom Wolfe, the journalist and novelist, who discovered the power of exact writing when he was struggling to write an article about custom car designers.
Oh, Tom Wolfe. I love his work. Tell me more about that story.
So Wolfe was feeling really stuck on this article, so he called his editor and basically confessed that he didn't know how to shape the material. And his editor gave him this really simple advice: just type out your notes, record everything you can remember, and send them over.
So essentially just a brain dump. No trying to be clever or creative, just getting those raw observations down on paper.
Exactly. And as Wolfe started typing, recording all those details about the designers, their personalities, their workshops, their creations, something really amazing happened. He started to see the story in a whole new light.
It's like the act of writing, right, of putting those details into words, forces us to slow down and really pay attention, and then boom, those connections start to emerge.
Precisely. And here's a key point Levy emphasizes: that we should record it all. Even those thoughts and observations that seem irrelevant or insignificant at the time.
It's like you never know what detail might spark a breakthrough idea or reveal a hidden connection, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like our subconscious mind is picking up on those subtle clues that our conscious mind might miss.
Exactly. It's about trusting your intuition and capturing everything that comes to mind without censoring yourself. You never know what detail might be the missing piece of the puzzle.
Okay, so we're capturing all these details, these thoughts, these observations. What do we do with them? How do we organize this information in a way that's actually useful?
That's where Levy's concept of building an inventory of thoughts comes in. He suggests creating what he calls a thought chunk document, a digital or physical repository for all those ideas, insights, and observations that you generate through free writing.
So it's like creating a treasure chest of ideas that we can dip into whenever we need inspiration or a fresh perspective.
Exactly. And Levy says include anything that sparks your interest or energy. It could be a quote, a news article, a random thought, anything that catches your attention.
It's like creating a personal library of interestingness.
Yes. And the beauty is, those seemingly random thoughts and observations can often connect in unexpected ways, leading to new insights and innovations.
It's like those moments when you're reading a book and you come across a passage that seems to speak directly to a challenge you're facing, even though the book has nothing to do with your work.
Mm.
It's like, wow, the universe is sending me a message.
Right. And a thought chunk document helps you to capture those messages, to make those connections that you might otherwise miss. It's like you're creating your own personal encyclopedia of inspiration.
I love that. Now, with all of these free writing techniques swirling around in my head, I'm wondering, how do I know which one to use when?
That's a great question. And Levy's advice is really simple: experiment and find what works best for you. There's no right or wrong way to do this. It's about becoming the author of your own creative process.
So it's about personalizing the process, giving ourselves permission to try different things and see what sticks. Some people might thrive on structure and routine, setting aside a specific time each day for free writing. Others might prefer a more spontaneous approach, just letting those ideas flow whenever inspiration strikes.
Exactly. It's about finding your own rhythm, your own way of tapping into that creative flow. And the more we experiment, the more we learn about ourselves, and what works best for us.
And Levy emphasizes that we shouldn't be afraid to break the rules, right? Like, if something isn't working, try something else.
He's all about encouraging experimentation, adapting those techniques, creating our own hybrid approaches. The goal is to unlock our unique creative potential.
So it's not about following Levy's advice blindly. It's about using his framework as a starting point, a springboard for our own creative explorations.
Exactly. Now, another concept that I find really intriguing in Levy's work is the fascination factor. He suggests that by examining our fascinations, we can actually uncover our unique value, those things that make us stand out from the crowd.
So it's about paying attention to those things that light us up, those things that we're naturally drawn to, and then figuring out how to weave them into our work.
Precisely. He says to make a list of everything that fascinates you, and I mean everything, from childhood memories to current obsessions, hobbies, intellectual pursuits, anything that sparks your curiosity.
So it's not just about business ideas, it's about understanding our passions, our interests, those things that make us unique and interesting individuals.
Exactly. And often, by examining those fascinations, we can uncover those hidden connections, those threads that weave together our seemingly disparate interests into a cohesive whole.
It's like those moments when you suddenly realize that all those seemingly random interests and passions that you've had throughout your life actually make sense together. They're all part of a bigger picture.
Yes. And Levy argues that this is where true innovation comes from. When we're working from a place of genuine passion, when we're aligned with our core fascinations, we're much more likely to come up with those breakthrough ideas that make a real difference in the world.
That's so inspiring. It's like when we're truly passionate about something, we bring this whole other level of energy and creativity to the table, and that's what sets us apart from the competition.
Absolutely. And he uses this great analogy of a filter. Our fascinations act as filters, shaping the way we see the world, the information we pay attention to, the ideas that we're drawn to.
So by understanding those filters, by being more aware of what fascinates us, what drives us, we can gain a deeper understanding of our own unique perspective and how we can use that perspective to create something truly valuable.
Exactly. And it's about having the courage to embrace those passions, to let them guide our decisions, and to create a business that truly reflects who we are.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We're wrapping up our exploration of Mark Levy's accidental genius and all the amazing insights he offers for entrepreneurs.
I'm really excited to see how we can pull everything together and, give our listeners some concrete takeaways that they can actually apply to their businesses.
Me too. And one thing that's been really resonating with me throughout this deep dive is this emphasis on storytelling. Why is Levy so passionate about storytelling, and how does it relate to building a successful business?
Well, he makes a really compelling argument that stories are hands down the most powerful way to connect with people, build relationships, and, ultimately sell your product or service. Think about it. We're hardwired for stories.
I've heard that before, and it makes sense. Like, we remember stories, we connect with them emotionally, they just stick with us.
Exactly. Stories capture our imaginations, evoke emotions, help us make sense of the world around us. And as entrepreneurs, we have this incredible opportunity to leverage that power.
So it's not just about listing features and benefits or trying to sound all fancy and corporate, right? It's about creating a narrative that people can connect with.
Exactly. It's about weaving a story that draws people in, makes them feel something, and ultimately inspires them to take action. And Levy encourages us to think about different types of stories that we can tell.
Okay, like what What kind of stories should we be focusing on?
Well, there's the story of our origin, right?
Yeah.
How did our business come to be? What problem are we solving? What makes us unique?
Right, the why behind the business.
Yeah.
People want to know what you stand for, not just what you sell.
Exactly. And then there are the stories of our customers. How are they using our products or services? What challenges have they overcome? What successes have they achieved?
Ooh, customer stories. Those are so powerful because they're relatable. People can see themselves in those stories.
Absolutely. And don't forget about the stories of your team, the people behind the brand. Sharing those human stories makes your brand feel more relatable, authentic, and trustworthy.
So it's about giving people a glimpse behind the curtain, showing them that you're not just a faceless corporation, but a group of real people who are passionate about what you do. I like that.
Yeah.
Now, how can we use free writing to actually craft those compelling stories?
Free writing helps us tap into those raw emotions, those personal experiences, and those vivid details that really make stories come to life, It's like we're digging for those nuggets of gold that are hidden within us, just waiting to be discovered.
So it's almost like free writing is the first step, the brainstorming phase of storytelling.
Mhm.
We're using it to gather those raw materials that we can then shape and polish into something beautiful and impactful.
Yes. And we can use free writing throughout the entire process, from brainstorming to drafting to revising. It can help us find the right words, the right tone, the right stories to tell that will truly resonate with our audience.
That makes sense. It's a tool that we can use throughout the entire creative journey.
Hmm.
Now, building a personal brand is closely related to storytelling, right? Especially in today's digital world, where people are constantly bombarded with information and choices. How can we stand out from the crowd and connect with people on a deeper level?
Personal branding is so important. It's not enough to have a great product or service anymore. People want to connect with you, the person behind the brand.
Right. They want to know who they're doing business with, what you stand for.
And free writing can be a powerful tool for crafting that personal brand.
Okay, so how do we do that? Where do we even start?
Levy suggests starting with some deep self-reflection. Ask yourself some tough questions. What are my core values? What am I most passionate about? What unique skills and experiences do I bring to the table?
Yeah, those are big questions. It can be intimidating to dive into that kind of self-exploration.
Mm.
But I guess the more we understand ourselves, the better we'll be able to communicate who we are to the world, right?
Exactly. And once you have a clear understanding of your personal brand, Levy suggests crafting a brand story.
A story that captures the essence of who you are and what your business is all about.
Yes. And remember, that story should be authentic, relatable, and memorable. Use those free writing techniques to help you find the right words, the right tone, the right stories to tell that will truly resonate with your target audience.
Now let's talk about the elephant in the room, the thing that all entrepreneurs face at some point, those inevitable moments of self-doubt, those creative blocks, the fear of failure. How do we stay motivated and keep moving forward even when things get tough?
That's the million-dollar question, right? It's so easy to get discouraged, especially when you're first starting out and facing all those inevitable rejections and setbacks.
It can feel like you're constantly hitting a wall.
But Levy reminds us that creativity is not a linear process, It's full of twists and turns, peaks and valleys.
Yeah, it's definitely not a straight line to success.
And those moments of frustration, those creative blocks, are a natural part of the journey. So first and foremost, be kind to yourself. Acknowledge that you're going through a tough time and don't expect yourself to be on all the time.
That's such an important reminder. We're all human. We all have those days when we feel like we're not good enough or that we're not making progress. But it's about giving ourselves permission to have those feelings without letting them derail us.
Exactly. And remember that thought chunk document we talked about? Well, those downtimes can be a great opportunity to revisit it, to see if anything sparks a new idea, or just to remind yourself of all the amazing things you've already accomplished.
It's like going back to our creative well and drawing inspiration from those past successes.
Exactly. And if you're still feeling stuck, try experimenting with different free writing techniques, A new prompt or a different medium might help to get those creative juices flowing again. And sometimes, the best thing you can do is just step away for a while.
Take a break. Clear your head. Come back to the problem with fresh eyes.
Exactly. Often those moments of disconnection are when those aha moments strike. And remember, you don't have to do this alone, right? Reach out to your colleagues, mentors, your online communities for support.
Building a business can feel very isolating at times, so it's important to remember that we're all in this together. There are people who understand what we're going through and who can offer support and encouragement.
Exactly. So, to our listener, the new entrepreneur who's just starting out on this journey, I would say this: embrace the messiness, the uncertainty, the ups and downs. Be kind to yourself, celebrate those small victories, and remember that you have this incredible wellspring of creativity within you just waiting to be tapped.
I love that. It's about trusting the process, knowing that we have everything we need to succeed, even when it doesn't feel like it. And if you're looking for a guide to help you unlock that creative potential, check out Accidental Genius by Mark Levy. It's full of practical tips, inspiring stories, and thought-provoking exercises that can really make a difference in your business and your life. And one final thought for you to ponder. Levy talks about how our fascinations reveal our unique value. What would it look like to create a business that was built entirely around your most compelling fascinations? What kind of impact could you make? That's something to explore in your next free writing session.
That's a great question to leave our listeners with. It's all about aligning your work with your passions, with those things that make you come alive. That's where the real magic happens.
And that's a wrap on another deep dive. Thanks for joining us.